Welcome to Math for All, where we try to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Volke.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are really excited about this conversation we're going to be having about math play. And if you would like to follow along on Facebook or Twitter, otherwise known as X, or YouTube, we
Right.
are happy to have you join us there as well. If you click follow, you will always be able to join us for our conversation with amazing math educators. And so we look forward to seeing you in those spaces as well.
Yes. And we are super excited about our guest. This is a repeat guest that we've had before, and we've been following the work that he's been doing, and he has a new book out. So we're going to be able to talk about his new book today. And his question is, why should we facilitate more math play in our classrooms? So we are very excited to have Libo Valencia with us today, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about him. Libo Valencia is a mathematics teacher at Horace Greeley High School in Chappaqua, New York. He is an adjunct lecturer at his alma mater, CUNY Lehman College, and also enjoys teaching at Mercy College. With 15 years of experience, Libo is a passionate educator who strongly believes that understanding mathematics can help all students develop critical thinking and problem solving skills that can be utilized beyond the classroom. Libo is known for his constant use of different technologies to engage his students by bringing math concepts to life. As a mathematics educator, Libo has taught a wide range of subjects from remedial algebra classes to upper level calculus. He is committed to helping spread the joy of mathematics through math play. Libo wholeheartedly believes that facilitating math play helps students develop a deeper appreciation for math and empowers them to better understand it. So let's bring Libo in. Hello.
Hi, hey Heidi, how are? Nice to see you
Hi,
again.
you as
Yes,
well.
it's wonderful to see you. And you've had an amazing thing happen since we last talked to you. And it
That's right.
looks
Yeah,
like this.
yeah. Nice.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. And we've been talking about it offline, Heidi and I, about what
Oh,
you have in
really?
there.
Yeah. But we would love to start if people didn't get to see your first interview with us, telling them a little bit about you and what is your math story.
Oh, like that's actually I think one of the first chapters of Math Play, because I think that it is important for everyone to share their math story, whether they like math or don't like math. Yeah, I think it's important for everyone to share the math story. So my math story started back in Colombia. I think I shared with you that I was born and raised in Colombia. I lived in Colombia until I was about 15 years old. Then I moved to the States, had to learn English, had to like kind of like reset, restart. But everything was positive. Everything was all blessings. So I think my math, like my love for mathematics, started back in Colombia. I was a really good student, like all the subjects, but math came like natural to me. And for some reason, like most people dislike math. Like who would have thought? And to me, it came, like so natural, and I really enjoy like helping people with math, and like it made sense. I love from like a very young age. I love the consistency of mathematics. I would like when you learn something and then it led to something else. I could almost feel excited when like the teacher was explaining something back in elementary school because I knew where they were going. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna connect with this, and this is like baby Lebo, right? Like Lebo when he was like 9 or 10. Um, so I always felt that like in math class, I felt empowered. I felt like I could always do a question. I felt that I could help people. So in a way, I felt that math was sort of like my superpower. When I came to the States when I was 15, as a teenager, I like math was again my safe place. What happened is like when you move from another country, you are involved in like an English language learner program, right? But like my math classes, because I had a strong mathematics foundation, were like considered to be like regular classes. So in math class, it was funny because like I didn't understand what they were saying because they were speaking to me in English and I was just learning it. but I understood the math. And I feel that once again, math was my safe space. And through mathematics, like not only did I feel comfortable, but I started picking up things because I knew the math. And I was like, oh, so that's how you say it in English. So it was a transitional period, and then from there, my love for math started to like develop and develop. I had amazing teachers at White Plains High School when I arrived from Colombia, and they pushed me. They at the end of that school year, they said like, "Libo, you should go into honors classes." And I was like, "No, no, no! Like I just got here. I'm sorry. Like I don't want to go into the honors class." I was afraid, but it turned out, it turned out okay. I went into like honors classes and whatnot, but I always felt like a fish in water when I was in a math class. Whether it was like back in Colombia or here, and then from there, thank God I got a full scholarship to go to like Lehman College, and I was able to like do my major in mathematics, minor in education, became a math teacher, and then it's now like 16 years after that I've been teaching mathematics.
That's awesome.
Wow. I feel like you did say that in the book, but I guess the biggest part that I remember from the book in terms of your most current math story leading to the book is the work that you did with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so 16 years in, and how do you feel like your teaching has changed from the time you started teaching until now? Because it's very much what the book is about.
Oh, 100%. I wish, one of the things that I share, and I've shared this in social media on Twitter or X, is that I really wish that teaching programs had a component of like feedback. Because I like over like more like recent years, like I probably after my 10th year, I started like asking students for feedback. While before, like when I started teaching, I didn't even consider that. I was like, oh my God, if I ask my students like to give me feedback, it's gonna be perceived as like he doesn't know what he's doing, or the administrator is gonna think like, what's going on with this guy? Why is he asking the students for feedback? And what I've learned is that I've had the opportunity to teach like different classes, not only different classes, but also different levels. What you will consider like the standard level, the honors level, the essential, or like the remedial level. And what I've learned is that the students will give you the best feedback ever. They provide with transformational feedback because like you could apply that feedback and then it goes back to them. So I think like over recent years, some of the best feedback that I've gotten has come from my students when they say like, oh, Mr. Valencia, like this was like too much, or maybe we could do this. And I've also learned like over recent years that a lot of times it's not about like before, like Libo from like the first 3 years. I will say, oh, I'm gonna do this question and I'm gonna do this example to make sure that I cover like this case scenario and this case scenario and this case scenario. And nowadays I try not necessarily to like expose them to like every single, but like well, let's do a couple, but let's do them like deeply. So like whatever and then like once they have that foundation on their own, the students are able to explore different case scenarios. So I feel like those two things are like two of the things that came right to mind. First is like reaching our students for feedback. Our students are like they're the best tech support you could ever have, and they're also like the best feedback you could ask for because they will tell you those are like Mr. Valencia, this was good, and you have to like every year I want to be better, right? Every year like. And next year, I want to be better than I was this year. And like that's the thing. Like for as long as I'm teaching, I think it has to be like 32 years. Every year, I want to be better than the previous year. So that's the thing. So wherever we are in our journey as educators, the goal is to be better. And I feel that by asking our students for feedback and by like doing a different approach of not like I'm gonna show them example 1, example 2, example 3. Like no, let's just explore 1 and 2 for like a long time. And that builds capacity, that builds problem solving, that builds like connections because the students have to collaborate. Another thing that I used to do is like always like I'm gonna do A, then I'm gonna do B, and then I'm gonna do C, and then I'm gonna do A, and then I'm gonna do B, and then I'm gonna do C, right? Because that's the way, and like there's nothing wrong with that. I learned like that, and I bet like a lot of teachers, a lot of educators right now learn that way. But a lot of times I found that sometimes I draw my students at C, and then I'm like, all right. You're at C right now, so figure out A and B and go back. And that's also powerful because like if you think about it in life, we don't like, get a secret like okay, if you're gonna be a parent, do this. Like you kind of like learn as you
that would have
go,
been
right?
nice.
You a husband, like a spouse, like you learn, like a lot of the learning happens like right there and then. Like there's no like algorithm. Okay, you're gonna do this. Now I do have a plan. I don't want you to think like I show up to class and all right, let's see what's gonna happen today. I do have a plan. I've learned over the years too. Adjust. Like sometimes I start with this plan and then I see a learn like an opportunity to like make a connection that normally like that wasn't the plan. But that also, it's like you learn that over the year with experience. Another thing that I will like strongly recommend for teachers is if you have the opportunity to teach like multiple like different classes, it's definitely worth it. Because after having taught algebra, geometry, algebra 2 trig, pre-calc, calc, you get a sense of like, okay, this is what they're coming in with, and this is what they'll need for the next class. So if you haven't had the opportunity, ask for the opportunity. I remember when in my one of my former jobs, my supervisor would give me new classes every year, and I was, oh my god, what's with this guy? But like over time, I was like, he's gonna run out of classes before I run out of years, because I was like, it was still like early in my career, so I was like, oh, like this is good. And then nowadays, I'm so thankful because whatever class I'm gonna teach, I mean, we could call it whatever, right? Like in New York, it was to be course 2 and now it's algebra 2 trig, and now it's algebra 2, and then you're gonna like whatever we call it, like you have the experience, so you know what are the prerequisites for that class and what the students should be leaving the class with. So I think that's important. Yeah, it has definitely evolved over the years, and I'm excited to see how it continues to evolve.
Well, let's get straight to it then, because I feel like your question is right on the tip of your tongue, right? So, why should we facilitate more math play in our classrooms?
So the whole idea, so my most important job is I'm a dad, I'm a tata. So I have 2 little girls at home. One is 9 and one is 4. So my older daughter, she's so good. I mentioned this before. She's so good. She's like an angel. She makes it seem so easy, right? That's how you get tricked. That's why we had a second one. Then the second one turned out to be the devil. She listens to nobody. She does whatever she wants. So the first one made us feel like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like she does what you taught her. She's so good. And then we had the second one. Second one is crazy. Like the second one listens to nobody. She does everything that the first one. It's crazy. If you have a second child, like that's what's bound to happen. So with my daughter, my teaching experience has been both at the high school, and when I finished my first master's in pure math, I had the opportunity to teach at the college level, which, to be honest, was something that I was thinking, okay, like at some point when I'm like closer to retirement, I'm gonna be teaching at the college. I think that will be cool. But the opportunity presented itself, and a lot of times, like the book, like a lot of things that happened in my life, is like there's an opportunity, and then you could take it or not take it. What I always think is like, if I don't do it, I might not have this opportunity again. So I decided to do it. So my teaching experience has been both at the high school and college level. I have no training, no official training to like teach elementary, but I have a daughter. So as my daughter and it was like, it's so cool because like my elementary experience was in Colombia, so it's completely different. And then I see how she's like learning things in here. So of course I started like doing, teaching her, but we call it math play. So since she was like in pre-K, whatever, pre-K 3, she was like very young. We started playing, and I started showing her thing and playing with like everything around the house. In our basement, right now in our basement, we call that like the math play headquarters. There's like so many toys and games and all the math toys that are out there. We have them in this basement. So like I started playing with her to the point where she will say like, "Tata, are we gonna play or are we gonna math play?" Because like, are we gonna go play outside like normal play, or are we gonna actually math play? So I was like, no, let's. So and a lot of times when I would like play with her, I had a plan. I was like, oh, I'm gonna teach her addition. I'm gonna teach her about shapes. I'm gonna teach her about, and we use dice, we use domains, we use like different things. And a lot of times I had a plan, but then it like quickly developed into something else, something that she wanted to explore, something that, oh, will this work? And then I knew the answer, but I pretended I didn't. I'll be like, I don't know. That doesn't really work. Let's find out. Let's try it out together. So we'll try it out. And a lot of times, like, it was hard as her dad. I mentioned this in the book, not to jump in and say, like, no, Marina, that's not going to work. Let's do this. But, like, I let her. And at the beginning, she will, like, get frustrated. And then, this is not working. Let's do something else. But then, like, over time, she started to feel, like, empowered. Like, oh, no, let's do this. And what I noticed was that anytime we were exploring something that she wanted to do, she was really engaged. And so, like that was when she like wanted to try things, and like she was the most engaged. So like that to me was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And so what I started thinking is, I wish that I could like take this approach of math play and bring it with, like, use it with my students. So that's like when the idea started to like, but of course, like, at home we don't have any. I have to follow a specific curriculum. Like I don't have to. It's only one student, and she like listens to me, and we could take as long as we want or as little as we in a particular topic. But I started like it was definitely I felt in my heart that, oh my god, like this is at least like worth like the shot. Like I should try this with my students because I see how powerful it is with my daughter. Then it's definitely worth it trying with the students. So I decided to try with the students, and it's been transformational. It's been fantastic. I've experienced like in perspective like similar results with my students, even though it takes more planning. It's like you have to be very intentional. I was afraid, like, is this gonna work? Are my students gonna say like, oh, Mr. Valencia, we're in high school, this is not, this is like good for like your daughter at home, but this is not gonna work for us. So I decided to try it, and it's been good. I do have some example. I don't know if I can share. Can I share some
Yeah,
examples?
you can. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I think I could do
If you do present on the bottom.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Okay. Let me see. So I do. Let me see. Oh no. Please give me a limit. All right. No, it's okay. So I think giving me I'll try to like resize it. So the idea is I decided to try with my students at the high school, and it's been very positive. I started with like a geometry class because I feel like there's so many applications and things that you could do in geometry that, and it worked. It's been very positive. The students like it, to the point that like when that started to develop, one day on Twitter on X, Brian Aspen from Codebreaker reached out to me and said, "Oh, like I've seen some of the things that you do. Like, have you ever considered like writing a book?" And I was like, "What?" I consider myself a math person, right? Because we're all math people. But I said like, no. And he was like, "Oh, you should." And then we met. And long story short, I started, thinking about it. And it has did geometry. I did like algebra 2. Then I did pre-calc. I did calc. I've even tried it at the college level, both at Mercy and Lehman, and it's been very positive because like if you think about it, play becomes so natural, even for adults, for kids. That's like how we first started like, to interact with the world. So bringing play into math class, it's been amazing.
So, can you tell us how? I know that you started with geometry, but like, how do you know where to go to find math play stuff
Right.
for
So
high school kids?
so a lot of times, so what I like, my advice to anybody is like, start small, right? Because if you try to like I'm gonna do a whole unit or a whole something, it becomes too much. Oh wait, actually I think, let's see if I can do this. Hold on, I'm trying to show you some examples because these examples are worth checking out. Let me see.
I've,
Can you
yeah.
can you see my screen?
Here we go.
Oh yes, you can, right? I
Oh,
I just
it just. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. So here are the examples that I wanted to tell you. Like, this is how it started. It really started with my daughter in our basement. We will do math play. We will create patterns. We will do all kinds of operations like addition and using like dominoes and dice and all sorts of things to make it like concrete, and so that she will have like a good time with it. And I had my daughter do things like, oh, let's create your anchor chart and like what do these shapes have in common? And then like things, this is how like the whole idea of math play started to develop. It was with my daughter in the context of like pre-K or kindergarten or first grade. And as she started to get older, we're like, she's now in third grade and we're still doing things like this. Now, like currently we're doing math play with a lot of multiplication. And what I noticed is like she started coming up with her own ideas and her own things, and it's been very positive. This is an example that I talk about in the book. This is like one of those questions where like we were trying to recreate something 2 dimension into 3 dimensions, and she like a lot of times she would try something, and I knew it wasn't gonna work, but I wouldn't tell her because I wanted her to like have the experience and try it. And the times when we explore some of her questions, that's when she was the most engaged. And I'd like to go back to your question. A lot of times, the math play ideas come from something that happens. One day we were watching a Marvel movie, and they talk about like the Mayans, and I said like, oh, they were a culture in like Latin and South America, and why not? And I said like they had their own number system. And she said, like, what do you mean they had their own number system? So we went on Wikipedia and we look up like Mayan numbers, and then we started creating them with like some Jenga pieces and like some of the circles that we had. And this was fun. So this wasn't planned, but it was just an opportunity. Another thing that happened one day is like I'm doing a lesson for my pre-cal students on functions, and my daughter is like watching what I'm doing in the computer, and she says like, Tata, what's a function? And I said like a function. Now I have to think, how do I explain this in the context of like second grade? So I said like a function is like a fun rule. It's like a fun instruction. And then we started doing functions using our shapes. So the function was to create the shape using like for example, on the example in the upper right, she created a bigger triangle using smaller triangles. And of course, like for example, when she tried the hexagon, that didn't work. But I let her try it. So a lot of times, those are the things that happen. I noticed that she was curious. There was always a sense of exploration, and it was student driven. So I started doing geometry, and like in geometry, I started doing like with triangles. And the goal was, for example, to like take a picture of something that the students thought was a right triangle, and then prove or disprove that it actually was. So, and that was the instructions. I didn't tell students how to go about it. So some of them use like slope, some of them do the Pythagorean theorem, some of them use like measure the angles. So a lot of times the idea of math play doesn't have to involve like something completely new. It could be a part of the lesson that you already have. So to go back to your question, what I try to do nowadays is like within every unit of study, I try to implement at least like one math play lesson.
So that sounds really manageable.
Right.
One math play lesson in it. Did you say in a unit?
Per unit or per chapter, yes.
Oh, so that is way more doable. But I also think the way that you have described in your book, and Heidi, I don't know if you agree, it seems like there is just more math play in general in your class. Like a whole math play lesson might not be happening, but I feel like it takes you to change your idea of almost your idea of what math is, because when I look at you teaching your daughter functions in second grade, that's
right.
not how I think about functions. So did you have to make a big transition in your mind to be able to adjust?
So it was so funny because like I'm doing a lesson for my breakout class that I need for like a week, but then she comes in and she's like, what's a function? And like when she asked me, she put emphasis on fun. She said, what's a function? And I was like, so now I'm starting to think, and I'm like, oh, how do I tell her? And I'm doing breakout functions. So I'm like, oh, how do I explain this to her? So I was like a fun rule. She was like, what do you mean a fun rule? So then I was like, all right. So I stopped the lesson. I was all right, we got this. So I went, we go to the basement, and I got the whiteboard, and we started playing. I was like, oh, let's try to come up with a rule. And we did the triangle first because I knew that would work. And then I was like, oh, see, like with this little triangle, we made a bigger triangle. And then I said, like, what do you notice? I said, oh, there's like 4 little triangles, and it's the same shit. And then the next one that she tried was the square. That's easy to do. So then she did the square and then 4 little squares and made a bigger square. And then I tried to like push her. I said, oh, what about like, let's try another shape. She grabbed the hexagon, and that doesn't work. You cannot make a hexagon out of hexagons, of regular hexagons. That didn't work.
I would still try it though.
No, but it was worth a try. And she was like, no, this is not working. And then she tried. I was like, oh, let's try something else. And then we tried and that one worked. So that in my mind, like I'm just trying, and I feel that I work better under pressure because like when she asked, like I would have never thought of myself like, oh, I'm gonna like do this, fun function for my daughter. Like no, she's not doing functions. And it also like I feel that a lot of times like elementary school teachers are in this world and secondary teachers are in this world, and we don't know what you're doing. We don't know what you're doing, and it shouldn't be the case. Like a topic that is like functions that's considered to be like something that they learn at the secondary level. Like students as early as second grade could be exploring that, or like thinking about it in like with a different lens. So like I thought about it and we started playing, and it was a lot of fun. So a lot of times it's just like out of necessity, or like something happens and then like I see an opportunity to make a connection, or like my daughter like asks me a question and then like it leads into something else. And I feel that it's been very easy because my older daughter Mariana, she's like very curious, and like she will stay with a problem and try to solve it and try to figure it out. Now she wasn't like that at the beginning. At the beginning, she will get like as any kid, she'll get frustrated. Like, I don't want to do this. It's hard. But like now she's like, oh, like I feel that because of like all of our math play, she always feels that she can solve it. She always feels that, oh, like there has to be a way to figure this out. And I tell her like it's okay not to know, and it takes time. That's one of the things I say in the book. Like learning takes time. And like that's like making mistakes is a part of that journey. And I I pretend a lot of times that I don't know. I make mistakes. Tata, what silly goose, don't do that. And then she like will fix it all around. And then like because I want her to feel like, oh, my dad doesn't have all the answers, and I make mistakes because a lot of times we talk about that. So like everyone talks about the growth mindset, and everyone agrees. But like, how often do teachers model mistakes for students in the classroom? Like our lessons are like perfect, right? 16 years of experience going to a lesson, and it's like beautiful. But like it wasn't like that in year one, right? Like my students this year get to see, all the mistakes that I made as a new teacher, and I'm like, my students like from this year are helping me become a better version for like next year. So I feel like that should be the goal. And like math is not this thing that a lot of people. I feel that one of the reasons why a lot of people like don't like math is because they think it's like this, like you understand it or you don't understand it. There's one way to do math, and you either get it or don't get it, and that shouldn't be the case. And I feel that math play is like a tool, right? To like destroy that. Like, no, that's not the case. We could be playing with math, not only at the elementary level, which I do see a lot with my daughter. I see that there's a lot of opportunities for her to like come home with like frames and things, and like when she plays something online, and it feels like she's not like studying, right? It feels like she's playing a game. And I wish that there were like more opportunities for like us secondary teachers to bring play into the classroom.
So,
I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Heidi.
No, I mean, I think that's such a critical component, particularly for, parents who may not feel as comfortable, like helping their kids in math, or thinking about, I'm rushing here tonight from a family math night. And it was that idea that it was all game based and all play based. And so elementary school, and we wanted them to just really experience the ways in which we're trying to teach their students math, to explore and to try things and to have experiences with that. And then additionally did some work with Number Talks. And my friend who was running that station said, parents came to her after and said, well, I wish that I had had that experience, or I could have that experience. Like if someone could just do that with me now, so that I know how to be more supportive and help my kids, with that experience. I was like, well, do that together. Right. Like the kids were so excited to show their parents the games and the learning that they've been doing. And so sometimes it's just being open to allowing that to happen.
Yeah. That's amazing, because I think it takes a lot to turn parents over to the new ideas of math that we're exploring in the current age. But one thing that you had said when you were talking, Libo, really kind of struck me, because I've been having this conversation for the last couple of days, and it seems like you were not saying specifically perseverance, but you were really talking about the idea of perseverance and Mariana really developing perseverance through math play. But I'm wondering if you are starting to or have seen this same result with your students.
Oh my God, yes. I'm so glad you asked that. Because like what I've noticed is a lot of times at the high school level, right? What like you will think that students in the honors classes or advanced classes are the students that enjoy math because they're good at it, but that's not the case. As a student student, right? Like a lot of math teachers,
Mhm.
as students that were like did well in math, like you didn't always enjoy math class, not
Mhm.
because like we love math, but to me, like, it always felt very predictable, right? Like we're gonna do this, 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 and like repeat it, repeat,
Mhm.
repeat. And, like there's nothing wrong with that because it builds, right? I remember like in Colombia when I was learning algebra, we used this popular book in Colombia called Álgebra de Waldorf, which is like used in a lot of Latin American countries. And I remember doing hundreds. And when I said hundreds, I mean like 400, 500, like factorization questions, because like in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do all the examples on this book so that my teacher does not surprise me. There is nothing that he's going to give me that I haven't seen. Well, like
I'll say.
even students at like the advanced classes, like that's not, it's not always an enjoyable, like something that they enjoy. They like doing well in the class doesn't necessarily mean that they're
Mhm.
enjoying it. So
Mhm.
what I've learned is that a lot of times, like through math play, students not only create like perseverance, like they stay with the problem, but also it creates a sense of like ownership. I need to show you this now. Say
Are
like
you
this is your fault. Yeah.
are you are you gonna show us the Desmos
Yeah,
project?
no, that, yes, yes, yes. Well, first I want to show you this one. This is a project that we do in our sections of like
Oh,
chronic sections where they
I was
build a circle, yes, with Pringles, and then because that's fun and that's an activity that I've done with my daughter at home, the Pringles. But then what I have them do is, okay, now that you have it, let's upload the picture to GeoGebra and find sort of like the equation of best fit for that circle. So like now we're like they do the circle and now there's a component, and this is a lesson. I get to write like a lot of like college reg letters for like juniors, and this is like one of the things that they mentioned that they remember from the class, because I usually ask them like, what are like some of the things that you remember from a class. And it doesn't have to be like content related, because
Mhm.
kids will always remember how they feel, right? They're like, oh,
Mhm.
like this project, it was so cool because I wasn't sure and it wasn't working, and when I did the circle, like it took a few attempts, but we finally got it to work. So like this not only creates like a sense of like ownership and like the students are working together,
Mhm.
but yes, high engagement, perseverance, and a sense of ownership. And yes, the older project that students definitely stayed and like show a lot of perseverance is the doing art with math. So my Desmos art project, this is something that we do like on a yearly basis now, and the instructions of the project are usually very like open. I tell them like use at least like whatever number of like types of functions, but I don't tell them like you have to use like this many specific
Mhm.
equations. I tell them like do domain and range restrictions, and the work that I've seen from students is absolutely amazing. I had like not too long ago a student do like a self-portrait, and if you notice, you can see that this student wrote 117 equations. Remember, she only had to do like 8. And she decided 117, not because like it was a requirement, but because like this became something that she like cares about, right? This
Mhm.
became something that, oh my God, I want to do my best effort on this project. So what I learned through math play at the high school level is that students will do more than require. It creates a sense of ownership and also community building, because like I remember while we were doing this project, a lot of students like ask me questions, and I feel comfortable using technology, but they ask me things that I didn't know. And then like minutes after, a student will figure it out and will share with the class. So I feel that if we really want to display um a growth mindset, we have to be willing to like take risks, right? And
Mhm.
like try something with a tool that maybe you don't have all the answers for. Because if you're gonna wait until like you have all the answers, most likely it's never gonna happen. Another
well,
thing
you
that I
will
do,
be dead, right?
yeah. Another thing that I do is, and this is like my secret. Like this is people like tell me like, what? How do you like their mind is like, why would you do that? Like, what if somebody comes to see you that day? What I do, this is my secret. Like when I've tried things that I never tried before, I invite the administrators in my school. I say like, oh, on this day I'm gonna be trying something new. Feel free to stop by. Sometimes they stop by, sometimes they don't. But in my mind, like it doesn't work. I told you I'm trying it for the first time, right? Don't judge me. And if they come and it works, then like, oh my God, yes, Mr. Valencia, keep going. To be fair, the administration of my school, they have been very supportive
Mhm.
of ideas and like the the thing to do. But that's what I do because I don't want to be thinking about that. So I invite them straight up. I say like, listen, on this day I'm going to be trying something new. If you're free, if you're available, stop by. Like we're going to do. I haven't done. I don't know how it's going to go. Feel free to stop by. So that way they come and it's not working. Well, I invited you, right? And
Yeah.
it's not working. Well, we'll try it again.
Libo, your excitement for teaching is just so palpable, even through a screen.
Yeah.
I can imagine your students absolutely finding complete joy in your class.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I shared a story that when we had to teach remotely on Zoom, I told my wife this like every day. I always felt like a lion in a cage. I was like, this is horrible. Like because like, I need to interact with students. I need to move around. And a lot of times, like if I say like, Molly, do you have a question? And they say no, I know they have a question, but they don't want to tell me. So like because like when you interact with students, there's like this like energy, right, going around the room, and I could tell that even though Molly's saying that she doesn't have a question, she does, like her face is saying that she has a question. And like through Zoom, it was like so hard. And like when we had to teach remote, I mean, teaching remotely was better than not teaching at all. Period.
Right.
But like it was so I felt so limited because like I want to like bring, like ask them questions and walk around the room, and give somebody the pen and like things like that. So yeah, I try because like, if you're passionate about something, the students will like feel that energy, right? And like try to connect to like things that you love. I try like I bring like soccer applications into my classroom. When there is like the World Cup, I like talk about that, Star Wars, and like things that I know my students like to like make it not only like enjoyable but like concrete. Like, oh, you could apply that there. And like I have students that like sometimes will like find things on social media like math memes and email them. Now they don't share that with anybody. They just like between us, like, I found this. This is hilarious. They don't say it to anybody else. But I think that's cool. Like our math conversation should go beyond the classroom.
Yes, yes, yes,
Completely
yes
agree.
to all of that. So, can you please tell us and our listeners how they can learn more about you and maybe where they can find this?
Yes. So I'm pretty active on X, on formerly known as Twitter. I think that any ideas that I find that work with my daughter, with my students at the high school, with my college students, any programs, right? I love to like try like different ed tech platforms. So anything that I try that works, I'm gonna share. I'm like, oh, students tried this and it was good. And it also like students love that. They don't tell you, but they notice because students have told me, oh, Mr. Valencia, I saw that you posted like, you posted my work and it's like meaningful and you wouldn't think, right? Like, oh my God, like you look at that. But no, because like in real life, they don't share that with their friends, but they notice like, oh my God, Mr. Valencia like share our project or like he shared the work that we did today. So like any ideas, anything that I find that I find useful, I'm always like sharing on Twitter at Mr. Valencia 24. I also have YouTube channel. Also same hashtag at Mr. Valencia 24. So I'm not as active on YouTube, but I have some, like I started during the pandemic because what ended up happening is like we started using like all these tools, right? Regardless of like your level of comfort with technology. So I had a lot of teachers like ask me like the same question like 100 times. Like, how do I do this on this program? So I was like, you know what? Let me like just make a short tutorial about like how to do a video so you could just watch the video. So that's how we started. So I started on like short videos about like different ed tech tools, and then there's also like different videos about like math play and whatnot. So I post that mostly like Twitter. I also have a website, libovalencia.com. So there you can see like, I have a blog. I have all the different links. There is the link to the book that is on Amazon, Math Play. And yeah, so like mostly Twitter, but I do have a YouTube channel and also like my website.
Yeah, and we definitely recommend the book as well. It's sitting behind me, and I did not have a chance to grab my copy and bring it over, but highly recommend. Just a great way to really dig into different opportunities for incorporating math play into your specific grade levels, or just getting ideas to run with that and how they can be incorporated into your classroom.
Libo, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We are really excited about your book for you and excited about the content of your book for the rest of us.
Thank you.
I love following you on X because you are this excited on X as you are here tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry if I speak a little fast sometimes. My wife always tells me, like, you just slow down, relax. Because, like, I get too excited. Like, I'm talking about, like, math and play. Of course, I'm going to be excited. Because when I go upstairs, my wife can tell me, like, we're all the way upstairs and we could hear you. So, like,
I love it.
Well, we're super happy to have you, and we'll definitely be doing this again.
Thank you. Yes, no, I look forward to, like, anytime you invite me, I'm happy to come and hang out with you guys. And thank you for doing this, because I feel like this is not only beneficial for educators of all, like, levels, but also, like, in the public in general. That hopefully like, I feel like we should all be in a mission to, like, change that negative perspective, like negative like thing of math. But we're starting. The work is being done, and it's gonna get better.
It is gonna get better. With more Libos in the world, it's bound to get better. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wish I had half the energy. I wish I had half of it. He's amazing. So we are going to be back in a couple of weeks with Melissa McCain, and she is a new friend of ours that we got to spend time with at a few conferences this fall, and she is going to be talking to us about building thinking classrooms. So we're super excited to talk to her.
And she is one of the organizers of the Building Thinking Classrooms conference that happened this last year in Indiana. And there's another one coming up this year. And so we really invite you to come and have that conversation with us. And she is on the ground level of implementation. And I think that's a really like important thing to kind of keep in mind if you are using Building Thinking Classrooms in your classroom.
Yes, or if you're just interested in learning about it, please tune in. And until then, we hope that you keep math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone.